Hello to you. I do hope you are well, and a very warm welcome to this GCSE RE Unit 3 revision session with me, Ben Wardle. We're going to be talking our way through a mock exam paper that I have designed for us to do, which hopefully will help you to revise some of the key themes from Unit 3. So what you need to do is go down to the link below the video and get yourself a copy, a Microsoft Word copy of the Walking Talking mock paper. It is 4 sides long and we will be working through it in this video. So we're going to, pause if you need to, we're going to start now with section 1, believing in God. And our first question is a B-type question. Remember, this isn't in order. This is just a mismatch of questions I've put together, focusing on C's and D's mainly, just so we can get some of those key themes revised and practice our exam technique. So, do you think God is the cause of the universe? Give 2 reasons for your point of view. So how it works is you can now stop, you can pause this video, have a go at the question yourself. Alternatively, you can be jotting things down as I say them to you and talk us through the question now. So, do you think God is the cause of the universe? There are 2 key teachings that I really think it's important we know about the idea of God causing or designing the universe. They are the design argument and they are the causation or cosmological argument. We'll start with the design argument. This was first proposed by William Paley, and he said if you were in a desert and you suddenly came across a watch, and you look at it and you think, how amazing is this watch? How intricately designed. It can't just have got here by chance. There has to have been intelligent thought. There has to have been conscious crafting and creation. And he said that in the same way, when you look at the whole universe and you look at Earth, also perfect for human life, perfect to sustain and allow us to live within its means, you wouldn't just go, oh, this happened by chance, this just got here. No, in the same way as the watch needs a watchmaker, the Earth, the universe, needs a universe maker. And William Paley said that universe maker, that creator, that being that had that intelligent thought, that conscious crafting, is God. So it's not happened by chance. There's been intelligent thought and purpose and creation. Not just an accident like just finding a random watch in a desert and going, yeah, that just got there by chance. Because logically, that's not what you're going to think. Then we have the causation argument. This was proposed by St. Thomas Aquinas. And he said everything has a cause. For example, the fact that my pen has just fallen now, the cause of that was me dropping it. And in the same way, everything has a cause. So what caused the universe? And you could say, what caused the Big Bang, for example? So he said everything has a cause, and the cause of the universe must have been a great, great being who could cause all of this. And he said that was God. Now you might be saying, well, who caused God? St. Thomas Aquinas and indeed this theory state that God is the uncaused cause. So for this whole system of cause and effect to kick off, there has to have been an original uncaused cause. And this theory states that that uncaused cause is God. It is there, and this started off this chain of cause and effect. To the causation argument, the idea that everything has a cause. God caused the universe, but nothing caused God because God is the uncaused cause. That is, if you like, the causation argument in a nutshell. And when you think of design, think of William Paley and his watch in a desert. Bless him. Important that we know for this section, this is section 1, believing in God. It's important that we are aware of the fact that science can sometimes contradict religion, or it can be compatible with religion. For example, scientific explanations for the origin of the world can include the Big Bang Theory and evolution. Important you know that Pope Francis, the leader of the world's Catholics, has said that the Big Bang Theory does not contradict the divine act of creation, and he's also said the same about evolution. So we're seeing that Catholics, some Catholics, see the scientific explanations of Big Bang evolution as compatible with their idea of a God who has created the universe. Okay, so it's also worth knowing that the Big Bang theory, a pinnacle of science you may say, was first hypothesized by a Jesuit priest and physicist. So it does show there are compatible components. However, people such as evangelical literal Christians may sort of say, no, the earth was created by God in 6 days, nothing else is right. So it's important you have a good understanding of how religion and science can be compatible but also can contradict. So there's that first question, our first 4 marks of this paper. Moving on to our second question, our first C-type question. Explain how a religious upbringing can lead to a belief in God. You might like to pause here and have a go at this. So what is a religious upbringing? So a religious upbringing is how you bring children up as part of a faith. And in Unit 3, we really focus on Roman Catholic upbringing, okay, because this is the Roman Catholic paper. So what might the characteristics of a religious upbringing be? They can be attending church, it could be going to Sunday school, it could be praying, it could be reading the Bible, it could be taking the sacraments such as baptism, First Holy Communion, etc., etc. It's about bringing children up with religion a massive part of their lives. So we need to know for this question what a religious upbringing is, and then to get full marks, to get that higher level answer, to explain how that will lead to a belief in God. So let's work our way through it. So how would going to church and perhaps Sunday school lead to a belief in God? Well, you're going to be exposed to the idea, and that's really, really crucial. You're going to actually have access to this idea and key teachings on it. If you'd never been to church, if you'd never heard about God, then there's absolutely no chance that you are going to know anything about Him. So the fact that you are exposed to the ideas and the teachings through church is sort of the first step forward to believing in God. Taking the sacraments such as baptism, First Holy Communion, First Forgiveness, confirmation, etc. It gives people an opportunity to become closer to God if they believe in a God. What it's doing is it's strengthening their belief. Even if there isn't a God there, it's going to make them believe in Him more strongly. So when you think of sacrament, think of the word strengthen. It's about strengthening your belief, or the child's belief. If a child is taught to pray, a key part of a Catholic upbringing, they are going to start to make correlations between praying and what goes on in their life. For example, if I pray that my football team will win the next match, and then they do, I'm going to say, yeah, my prayer did this. Even if it didn't, they're going to be actively seeking correlations. And when they get a positive correlation, so when they pray and it actually happens, that's going to strengthen the child's belief in God. Prayer is going to be a massive part of their lives. Pope Benedict, the 17th, the 16th, 17th, Pope Benedict, the one that's just gone, bless him, retired, he said, life without prayer has no meaning. So people who do believe in God are going to feel, the children are going to feel their lives have a lot more purpose and meaning, and they're going to make those links between what happens and what they pray for even more. So prayer will strengthen, again, a belief in God. What else can we tell you? A religious school. If a child's sent to a religious school, that's definitely going to strengthen their belief in God and lead to a belief in God, because they're going to absorb the teachings. It's going to be a real culture of Catholicism. Assemblies, masses, celebrations like Christmas. It's going to be a massive part of that child's life, because at school it's going to be going on all the time, and so that's going to help them to sort of move to a life that's got the idea of God at the very heart of it, sort of, because at school, at year 1, You're not going to go, well, hang on, how do we know this? You're just going to recite the prayers you're told to recite. You're going to go to the mass, for example. So it's going to become a real part of who you are. It's going to form your identity from a very early age. And that is how religious schooling, as part of a religious upbringing, can lead to a belief in God. So the key points there are about things such as prayer and taking the sacraments that will strengthen your belief, even if it's not right, and attending, say, church and a religious school, which gives you the opportunity to be exposed and to be able to absorb these ideas and concepts. Move on to our next question. It's another C-type question. It says, explain how Christians may respond to the problem of unanswered prayers. Remember, a prayer is when you are asking or thanking for something with the belief that a God is listening. So why might a Christian pray, first of all? I'll let you have a go at answering that question as we start to talk. Jesus taught Christians to pray. He also taught them, ask and it will be given to you. So ask and it will be given to you. That's a key quote if you're ever talking about prayer. Jesus said, if you say you ask, we're assuming he means if you ask God in prayer, he will give it to you. So it's the idea of sort of praying for certain things or being thankful and connecting, strengthening a relationship with a greater being, a greater God, if you like, in Catholicism. So what about unanswered prayers? What would a Christian do? Well, my first point for you is that Jesus said when he was praying, not my will, but yours will be done, talking to God there. So the idea that what you're asking for may not be right for you, may not be right for God, and may be selfish or unhelpful for the whole of humanity. So the idea that not what I want, but what God wants will be done. For example, if the prayer is selfish, so a Christian may then respond by saying, well, God doesn't want this for me now, or this isn't good for me now, so I need to say, I've prayed, I now need to move on and accept that not my will, but yours, God's will be done. That's a key sort of quote from Jesus on this theme, if you like. The idea that God has a plan could be another point for this answer. The idea that what you're praying for may not fit his grand plan for you and your existence. There's a key quote from the Bible. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. This is from the book of Jeremiah. So the idea that God knows you and he's planned your life, if you like, what's going to happen for you. So what you're praying for might not be part of that grand plan. And of course, Christians believe that God is omnibenevolent, all-loving, so they believe that plan is going to be the best thing possible for them. What else can we tell you? Well, we've given two arguments how a Christian may respond positively to unanswered prayer. So we've said, not my will, but yours will be done, and the idea of a grand plan. It may also lead a Christian to turning to the quote by St. Teresa of Avila, Christ has no body but yours. The idea that what you're praying for, you could do yourself. So you shouldn't be praying for it to be done. You could do it yourself. Christ has no body but yours. You could do what you're praying for in the world now, so why don't you do it? So it could be a call to action, an idea that you should do it yourself. You should pray for sort of the inner strength and then act, as opposed to waiting for divine intervention. And finally, you could say that unanswered prayers may lead a Christian to not believe in God, because if he does not answer prayers, firstly, Jesus is wrong. Jesus is the founder of Christianity. So all his teachings will come tumbling down if that one was wrong, because he taught, ask and you will receive, ask and it will be given to you. Also, it would mean that God is not omnibenevolent, he's not all-loving, he's not omniscient, all-knowing, he's not heard your prayer, or omnipotent, he's not all-powerful. So that would mean all three, or at least one of these three, would be wrong, and therefore a Christian may think, well, my prayer's not been answered, God doesn't exist, or he doesn't care about me, and again that may lead to a non-belief in God. So unanswered prayers can lead a Christian to sort of look for greater meaning. It can lead them to actually act themselves, and it can also lead for them to doubt God, to reject the idea of a God if prayer isn't answered. Our final question on this topic then, it's a deep dive. Remember, this is where we'll give 3 arguments for a statement, 3 arguments against a statement, and our question is, our statement is, it is possible to accept evil and suffering and still believe in God. Do you agree? So have a go at the answer to this question, see what you come up with. It's quite tricky. So it's important that we know the different types of evil. We have moral evil, which is evil caused by humans, and we have natural evil, which is evil that's sort of part of the environment. For example, earthquakes. It's beyond human control. So there are 2 types of evil, and this evil leads to suffering. So if we were saying we agree that it is possible to accept evil and suffering and still believe in God, what on earth would we say? Well, on the theme of moral evil, the idea of evil done by humans, such as murder, we could use the free will argument, the idea that God has given human beings free will, and so it is not him, but humans, us, that cause the evil and the suffering. There is a quote in the book of Genesis that says, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden." The idea that you can do what you like regardless of the consequences. You are free to eat from any tree in the garden. That's from Genesis. So you can do what you like regardless of the consequences. God has given you free will, and that can lead to people doing bad as much as it can lead to them doing good. You could also say about the argument of original sin, the idea that because Adam and Eve ate the apple in the Garden of Eden, forever and ever now, all humans will pay the price, namely that there will be evil and suffering in the world for the actions of the first human beings. Because they betrayed God, all of humanity will now suffer. The idea of original sin. And that's an idea put forward in part, or at least supported by some of the teachings of St. Augustine. He a key figure within Christianity. And you could also say about evil and suffering that they are a test. The parable of the sheep and the goats says that those who do good will go to heaven, those who do bad will go to hell. How do you tell who's done good? How do you tell who's done bad? You can test them. And the idea that God has set sort of a test might be a view of some Christians, and it's people who react well, who do good things, will go to heaven, those who do bad will then go to hell. So this world should be perfect, is sort of the idea of that. It should be about testing you to see whether you can go to a perfect world, heaven, which Catholics believe in, or if you do not respond well to the test, you then go to hell. What about if somebody was saying, it is not possible to accept evil and suffering and believe in God? You know, this clearly proves no. If there's evil and suffering, there's not a God. Well, it sort of brings everything about omnipotent, omnibenevolent and omniscient crashing down. We call it the inconsistent triad, the idea that there cannot be an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God and suffering in the world. Because if he was omnibenevolent, he would be loving and stop that evil and suffering, because it's clearly not loving. If he was omniscient, he would know about this suffering and surely he would stop it. And if he was omnipotent, omnipotent, or all-powerful, then he would have the power to stop evil and suffering. But because there is evil and suffering, that means at least one of those 3 in the inconsistent triad, or all 3 of them in the inconsistent triad, cannot be right. And so, there's no God. That's how you would argue that evil and suffering and God, not compatible. So we've got section 1 under our belts. There are some other themes within there actually that you might want to revise. They are religious experiences, the idea of numinous, conversion, miracles and prayer, and how they might lead to a belief in God. That's a topic that we haven't covered. You may also want to further research scientific explanations on the origins of the world and how TV and radio present ideas about belief in God. But that is section 3.1, believing in God. We move to section 2, matters of life and death, on our mock exam paper, and we start with a D-type question. I like to keep you on your toes. And it is a statement: there is life after death. Do you agree? Give reasons for your answer. Remember, with a D question, you must refer to religion. In this case, please try and refer to Roman Catholicism. Let's have a go. So, if you do agree that there is life after death, what can you say? Well, our first argument is the idea of the sheep and the goats. It's a parable told by Jesus that those who do good things during their lifetimes will go to heaven, and that those who do bad things in their lifetime will go to hell. Jesus said those who clothe the naked, those who fed the hungry will be sheep and they will go to heaven. Those who did not do these things will go to hell. And he said, whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me. Whatever you did to the most vulnerable in society, you did to me. So the idea that good people will be rewarded, bad people will be punished. There must be life after death for that to happen when you die. Staying with Jesus to support the idea of life after death, and he said, my Father's house has many rooms. This is interpreted as metaphorical language for heaven being able to welcome people in. And then we could use the idea of near-death experiences and religious experiences to suggest that there is life after death. For example, Saint Bernadette was a young girl who saw the Virgin Mary. So the idea that near-death experiences, an experience where you see yourself from above or you see yourself in heaven, or sort of experience of the paranormal, such as Saint Bernadette having her vision from the Virgin Mary, would give you the idea that there's something more. There's more than just this life, and that would lead to the idea of life after death. Remember, the Catholic Church does teach that there is life after death. Excuse me. So why would someone not believe that there is life after death? There is no proof. There is no evidence. We've got no definitive pictures. No one sent me a postcard. Nobody sent me a vlog. There's no blog post from heaven. No, there is no evidence. Don't put that. There's no evidence of an afterlife. Near-death experiences can be proven by scientists to be, for example, hallucinations. So that might then make you doubt their authenticity. And surely, this is an interesting point, an omnibenevolent God would let all people go to heaven. If he was all loving, would he not show total mercy, total compassion, total forgiveness on everyone? But Catholicism does teach that people will go to heaven, yes, then people will go to purgatory, and people will go to hell. Surely, if there was a loving God, everyone will go to heaven. An interesting point there. So do try and look for sort of alternative viewpoints, additional explanations that can really give you the edge in an exam, but do make sure, of course, that they are relevant and you're not just being a little bit mad. Moving on, we've got a C-type question to tackle now, and it is: explain why some Christians agree with abortion and some do not. Remember, abortion is the removal of a fetus from the womb before it can survive. It is when a pregnancy is ended by surgical or medical means. And we are looking at the Christian views on abortion. So we're going to talk through 2 reasons a Christian would support abortion, 2 reasons Christians would be against abortion. The first one would be free will, the idea God has, as we said before, said, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden. The idea that God has given human beings free will to make their own decisions. Why would he have given you a conscience? Why would he have given you free will if he didn't want you to make decisions for yourself? Therefore, it is your body. You have a right of autonomy over your body. Use that to decide for your body. So it should be up to the individual to decide, and Christians may say, God's given free will, so they can do so. Also, the idea of situation ethics. It may be the most loving thing to do. Remember, situation ethics, first proposed by Joseph Fletcher, taking inspiration from how Jesus behaved. And a Christian may say that, for example, if the mother's life is in danger, then an abortion is the most loving thing to do. So it might be, in that situation, the most loving thing to do. Why would a Christian not agree with abortion? First of all, we have the commandment, do not kill, and Catholics believe life begins at conception, and so that abortion is an act of murder, and obviously murder is against the commandment, do not kill. It's very clear. So do not kill, you are killing if you have an abortion, according to Catholic doctrine. And then we have the idea of the sanctity of life, the idea that all life is precious and belongs to God. I'll return to that quote I used before. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew me. That's from Jeremiah. From the Psalms, we have, you saw me before I was born. And then we have from St. Paul, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So the idea that all life is precious, and that includes the fetus inside the womb. So all life is holy and precious, and it is only God who can give, and it is only God who can take away life, because it's holy and it belongs to him. We'll then move on to the other controversial topic in this unit, which is euthanasia, which is the painless killing of someone with a painful disease. It is a controversial issue because some view it as murder, whereas others see it as helping someone carry out their wishes. We'll return once again to situation ethics. It may be the most loving thing to do in that situation. If a person is in great pain, surely to bring an end to that pain would be the most loving thing to do. And situation ethics is about asking, what would Jesus do? And would Jesus want to let someone suffer in pain? Or would, in a specific situation, would he support the idea of euthanasia, of painless killing? We then have the idea of free will, once again, that God has given dominion and control to people over themselves and over their bodies, and so they can decide for themselves what happens to their life. It is their life. If they make a conscious decision to, for example, end it, or a medical professional feels it's best, God has given human beings that intellect, that control, that authority, so surely they should be using it. We also have, of course, do not kill again, and euthanasia is seen by some as murder. Interesting quote for you from Pope John Paul II. Euthanasia is a grave violation of the law of God. Euthanasia is a grave violation of the law of God. So official teaching is that euthanasia is not allowed. It is a grave violation of the law of God. We've then got the ideas where Christian would also support that view, the idea that only God can give or can take life. And also, of course, sanctity of life, the idea that life is holy and that it belongs to God. Only God can give and take that life away. So we now move on to section 3, and we find marriage and the family. I've got some keywords for you to have a go at defining on there. So remember, it is the definition and an example if you can. Good luck. So let's take a look at those keywords then, shall we? We have homosexuality, which is sexual attraction to the same sex. It's important you've got some understanding of Catholic teaching on homosexuality. It could come up as, say, a C or a D mark or even a B mark question. The idea presented by Catholicism is that under no circumstances can they be approved, that meaning homosexual acts. So homosexuality is not allowed in Catholicism. Under no circumstances can two men and two women be in a sexual relationship. However, important this, the Catechism, that's the official teaching document of the Church, states that those who are homosexual should be treated with respect, compassion and sensitivity. So it still shows that they are respected as individual human beings, but they are told that they cannot engage in sexual relationships. It's prohibited in Catholicism because Catholics believe that all sex should be for childbirth. It should be open to the idea of new life. It shouldn't just be for pleasure, and it should only be between two married people. And of course, in Catholicism, marriage is only allowed between men and women. Gay marriage is not supported in any way by the Catholic Church at the moment. Cohabitation is living together without being married. Promiscuity is having a relationship, having sex with a number of partners without commitment. So it's lacking commitment, just sleeping around. And a reconstituted family is where two sets of children, stepbrothers and stepsisters, become one family when their divorced parents marry each other. That is one worth remembering and sort of retaining, because it is quite difficult to just put it into words in 2 minutes in the actual exam, should it come up. So we move on to some questions in this topic, marriage and the family. And our first question is, do you think religious people should accept divorce? Give 2 reasons for your point of view. So remember, divorce is when a marriage comes to an end and they legally separate. The two partners in the marriage legally separate. So, crucial that we're looking at religious people. For Unit 3, we're looking at Roman Catholic Christians. So, well, in Genesis, and indeed Jesus also says this, that they will become one flesh. So the man and the woman will leave their respective parents and they will marry and become one flesh. Then, in the eyes of God, they are one. And what is joined in the eyes of God, the church teaches, cannot be separated. So they are one flesh. They now become one. You cannot separate one. So they cannot divorce. So divorce is not acceptable because when you marry, you become one flesh. However, more liberal Christians may agree with divorce because they say if it's an unhappy marriage, if there's lots of negativity, lots of tension, unhappiness, then situation ethics, doing the loving thing in that situation, should say that divorce is permissible if it's the best thing for all those involved. It's the most loving thing to do. Moving on then, I'll let you have a go at answering this. Do you think a Christian should support the use of contraception? Give 2 reasons for your point of view. So it's again a mixed one, this one, because Catholics say that relationships, key quote, are to be open, loving and life-giving. The idea of a sexual relationship is that it is open to childbirth. It should be between a married man, married woman, obviously married to each other, and they are open to the idea of having a child because a child is seen as a gift from God. Obviously, contraception stops that and it makes the sexual act just about the pleasure gained from it, as opposed to being open to being life-giving, which is what sexual intercourse in Catholicism is meant to be all about. Of course, Catholics believe that children are a gift from God, that it is God that gives and God that takes life, and he will decide when that new life comes about. Of course, we see before I formed you in the womb, I knew. Before you in the womb, God knew you. That again from the Bible, from the Old Testament. So the idea that God has got this grand plan, and using contraception is interfering with nature, it's interfering with his plan for his people. However, it could be an opportunity to use situation ethics. For example, if there's a risk of sexually transmitted disease, for example, going on at that time, then using contraception may be necessary. It may be the most loving thing. Having a child may not be suitable at that time for the couple. There may be a great financial difficulty, for example, or they may be going through, a period where just having a child would not be the right idea. And so situation ethics, doing the loving thing, would be to use contraception so they can maintain the intimacy in their marriage, but not have a child at that time. Remember, the idea of Catholic marriage is to marry, to be united, and to raise children. So it's a key part of Catholic marriage. That brings us nicely on to C, which is explain why marriage and family life is important to Christians, an 8-mark question. First one for you is that it is a sacrament. Marriage is a sacrament, and as I was saying before, we see a sacrament as an opportunity to strengthen a relationship with God. So if you're going to marry, you're going to strengthen your relationship with God. And of course, for a Christian, that's very important. It's going to be a very positive thing. Again, we return to that quote in Genesis, the idea that they will become one flesh, so that God's plan is for all the men and the females to sort of unite as one flesh in the unit of marriage. Marriage, of course, brings a lot of happiness, a lot of love, and a lot of joy. These are obviously key Christian virtues. So, of course, a Christian would see it as very important, because they believe the stability and happiness that a marriage can provide is so important for all human beings, because they believe all life is precious, and a way of showing how precious it is sort of having marriage, having that happiness that is said to come with it. Children are a gift from God. We're now moving on to the family life bit. So it's very important that Christians have a family life, because they see children as a gift from God. In the book of Genesis, Eve is said to have said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man. The idea that family life is sort of something you do with God involved. It's an opportunity to involve God in your life. With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man. The idea that you then raise children together with God involved, an opportunity to get God involved in your life, to sort of bring new children into the Christian family. So that's why family life is important. It's also an opportunity to celebrate the feast days such as Easter and Christmas, an opportunity to show your devotion to your God, and an opportunity to show that love and compassion that is so important to Christians. So we shall now move on to section 4. And I do think that actually community cohesion can be quite a difficult topic for some of us. So we will focus quite a bit of our attention on this topic. So here we are, section 4, religion and community cohesion. So our first question, do you think women should have the same religious rights as men? Give 2 reasons for your point of view. So, first of all, we shall give the reasons why women should have the same religious rights as men. First of all, Genesis says, in the image of God, he created them. So he created everyone equally. He created them in his image. So as we would respect God, well, a Christian would hope they would, we respect everybody because he created everyone in his image. So the idea that all life has been created equally, no distinction between men and women. Also, the golden rule to love your neighbour as yourself. That is a very key idea. We love your neighbour, whether they are male or female. everyone deserves that same love, equality and respect. Then why wouldn't a Christian or a Catholic support equal religious rights for women? First of all, the Bible says that women should obey their husbands. It says that women should be silent in church, and it says that women are sinful. This was an idea in Christianity for a long time, with the idea of Eve being the sinful one. So there are, a lot of teachings that would suggest that women are inferior to men. However, this is a great opportunity to talk about how people interpret the Bible. We can again link this back to the creation of the world and to different ideas, such as about homosexuality. The Bible needs to be contextualized. That means seen as it was. So thought about why was it written, when was it written, who was it written by, and to see it as it was then and to put that into perspective viewed now. We've got to ask ourselves, well, what was happening at the time in wider society and what's happening now in wider society? And do we take the Bible literally, as literally it came from God? Or do we recognise it was written by human beings at a certain time in history, and we've got to interpret it to make it relevant to today's society, to today's culture? Because there have been massive changes since the thousands of years ago when the biblical books were written by human beings. Of course, someone may say, well, no, the Bible was literal and we must take it literally. And then they would, on this question, be saying, well, the Bible says women should obey their husbands and be silent in church. So there we are. Women must remain with less religious rights than men, for example. We'll move on to our C-mark question. Explain why Christians should promote racial harmony and community cohesion. This is very much about the equality that every human being has. So we can start with the golden rule to love your neighbour as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That applies to everybody. Nobody should be excluded from that concept. And so Christians should work for racial harmony and community cohesion, because it ensures everybody, every neighbour can live peacefully together and experience love. Jesus said in the parable of the sheep and the goats, whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me. The idea that every single human life has deep value and deep purpose, that the holiest being, Jesus, is in every single life, and so every single life deserves to be respected, accepted and celebrated. And so we need racial harmony and community cohesion to ensure that all life is accepted, respected, appreciated and celebrated, and everyone is able to live with dignity. We have the parable of the Good Samaritan, which sees someone who was not of the same, race or religion, going and helping someone else, someone of a different religion, showing that it shouldn't matter what religion or what race you are. The fact that we are all human beings is what's important, and so we should all work together for the common good, that the idea of compassion should always overcome evil and division and divide. So there shouldn't be a segregation, there should be a celebration of our shared humanity. It shouldn't matter what ethnicity, what religion. The Good Samaritan, the idea of that parable is to say that you should help those in need irrespective of their race, religion, ethnicity, etc. And we then have the idea that Christ has no body but yours. Again, that's from St. Teresa of Avila, not Mother Teresa, St. Teresa of Avila. And the idea there is, would Jesus want division, segregation, divide, hatred in communities? No, he wants people to live peacefully, happily and joyfully. And so we should show that. We should be Christ-like as Christians, if you're a Christian, and you should show that love, that compassion, that unity. There's also a quote from the Psalms to share with you. Seek peace. And if you're going to seek peace, you should seek it for everyone. How can we ensure there is peace? Seek peace is our quote. Well, you should ensure that there is racial harmony and there is community cohesion. So we're talking there about the idea of all life being precious, all life being valued, and so everyone working together, the idea of one human family, everyone created by one God, and so all deserving that same recognition, care and respect. And the idea that Jesus would want us to love everybody and ensure they have a peaceful existence, taking their Christ has no body but yours, and taking their the golden rule which he taught. And expanding on that idea of seeking peace in society, Jesus taught on the Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." The idea that those who bring peace will be the children of God. They are the best in God's eyes, if you like. Again, another motivation for a Christian to seek racial harmony and community cohesion. We now move on to the idea of interfaith marriages. It's a C-type question again. Explain why interfaith marriages can cause problems. And I like to see the issue with interfaith marriages as a which question. They can be very good, but we're asked here to talk about the problems. And again, I repeat, which. We're looking at which venue. Where should the marriage take place? Should it take place, for example, in a church or in the synagogue or in the mosque, or where the other party in the marriage is said to worship? Where do we hold the ceremony, this really, really precious, sacred day, this sacred act of union? Where should it take place? Remembering that families will be involved, the mother and father of the bride, the mother and father of the groom. They're going to have their religions. They're going to have quite strong views on where that act of marriage should take place. So the venue is a problem. It can cause dispute and unhappiness on sides of the families. Which faith should a child be brought up in? If we're having a child, but we've got different religions, which faith should we indoctrinate them into? Where should we take them to worship? Which prayers? Which holy book? That leads us on to which school. Do we send them to, for example, a Church of England school? Do we send them to a Jewish school? Do we send them to an Islamic school, for example? Because, of course, they're going to have a religion sort of put upon them. It's going to be a big part of their lives. And again, that can upset the wider family, as an addition to upset it may cause to the marriage partners. Then we have which festivals to celebrate. Do we celebrate Christmas? Do we celebrate Passover? Do we celebrate, other key events in sort of different religious calendars, which other sides of the family may not celebrate? So where do we sort out our schedule, sort out our schooling, sort out our venue, and sort out sort of how we live our lives with two different religions? So it can cause problems, especially when you have a child. How do we bring that child up? Which religion? Which sacraments? Which schooling? And of course, for, say, celebrations, which ones do we celebrate? How do we pick? And how do we sort of pray together and make our worship that we do compatible and keep that marriage strong through sort of our very different religions? Although, having said that, it's important we know that interfaith marriage can work very well, because there are lots of similarities we can see in religion. For example, we can pick out the idea of love being a key theme, so we can prioritise that, and we can give our children a taster of the different religions, but inevitably it's their decision, and as long as we're teaching them the key messages of love, peace, hope, joy, reconciliation and forgiveness, then what else really does matter? It is quite a difficult question there. And now, this isn't on our paper actually, but I just want to give you a bit of an overview of the concept of a multi-faith society in which a interfaith marriage would take place. So the UK is a multi-faith society, and we need to introduce you here to three key terms. They are exclusivism, that's it, exclusivism, I got there, inclusivism, and religious pluralism. The first one, exclusivism, is that there is only one religion that's right and all the others are wrong. Members of the right faith should try and convert others. So it is exclusive. It is the only one. We then have inclusivism, the idea that only one religion is completely right, but that other religions may lead to God. For example, the idea that, well, if they are, it's a Christian country, but if they're Islamic, they're still believing in a God, and many of the principles and, key beliefs are the same. So, we'll accept this, we'll allow this, but that followers should be encouraged to change faith, that they should be encouraged but yeah, you've already got this, so why don't you come and join us? We are the right religion. Or the idea of religious pluralism, the idea that many different religions lead to God, the idea that every road leads to Rome, the idea that all religions are sort of saying the same thing. This is something that's really key in the Baha'i faith, the idea that all religions are following the same message, the same ideas, and so all should be accepted and treated equally. So we have a spectrum. We start with exclusivism, the idea that only one religion is right. We then have inclusivism, the idea that that religion is the only one that's right, but we are going to accept ideas. We're going to say, yeah, okay, this is all right what you're saying, but you really should come and join us. And then we have religious pluralism, the idea that all religions should be accepted because they're all sort of saying the same thing about God, and the idea of leading to the same destination, which is happiness, joy, love and kindness and compassion. So that's the idea of a multi-faith society, which is of course when you have religious pluralism. There are many benefits to living in a multi-faith society. You've got a greater tolerance and understanding of the beliefs of others, with a varied and rich cultural life. You're getting so many different experiences, so many different ideas, and also a better understanding of different viewpoints. So you're going to have a lot more empathy, understanding and consideration. It's great for when you're dealing with other people and sort of bringing ideas together to create a really great vision, a really great society. And it gives you new ideas of living and enjoying life. You can take so much from other religions. Personally, I've taken so much from the Buddhist religion, and I've taken quite a bit from Christianity, so you can really take new ideas that you can channel into living a happier, richer life. There are, of course, challenges. It's not always easy to be open and understanding of ideas that you don't naturally accept. For example, Islam is very, very, very strict, that it does not accept homosexuality in any way, shape or form. And someone may find that very difficult to accept. For example, in the United Kingdom, where gay marriage is legal. There have been examples of religious persecution and hatred. So in many countries around the world, where they have attempted maybe multi-faith society, there's been so much tension between different faith groups, even different denominations, that, it doesn't work. And beliefs and values of some groups may be ignored. We may still have a predominant faith, a predominant idea that means that sort of is superior, even if we say we've got religious pluralism and ideas of some groups and minorities. This is always the case around the world, that the minorities are oppressed and they are persecuted. We're seeing this so much in the world now, with a lot of religious conflict that's ongoing. So they are some of the pros and the cons of living in a multi-faith society. And within that, the question we've just had, interfaith marriage, that is where interfaith marriage can occur. And it's important that when we have community cohesion, we see that we are working together, respecting each other, listening to each other, sharing our lives, our ideas, our principles and our practices, focusing not on our differences, this is community cohesion and religion, but on our shared values such as respect, tolerance, love, kindness, compassion, charity and non-violence. So we've got to conclude some key words from the Religion and Community Cohesion unit. Racial harmony, racism, community cohesion itself and religious pluralism. And remember, exclusivism, I forgot what the other one was, isn't that terrible? Inclusivism and religious pluralism. So we've got those key words there. So have a go. Have a go. So we'll start with racial harmony. That's different races living together happily. So it's not just all one race, but we've got this harmony, this harmonious living, people getting on, working together, accepting each other, and there's no tension or violence. We've then got racism, which is the belief that some races are superior to others, which then allows for negative comments, for violence, for sort of a disproportion to occur, for a divide to occur, and for people to target someone because of the colour of their skin or their race, for example, because they believe that theirs is superior to the person they're targeting. Community cohesion, that's a common vision and shared sense of belonging for all groups in society. So we're focusing on what we do agree on rather than points of difference, and looking at a common vision to move forward together. And then we have religious pluralism. Again, as I was saying, accepting all religions as having an equal right to coexist, that every religion has got something valuable, something worthwhile within it, and that they should all work together. We should respect everyone's religions. Of course, some people with extreme views may say, no, they are exclusivists, they believe only in their religion, but a pluralist would say, no, we need to accept all religions and see that they are all created with the same idea, the same goal, really. So there we have it, a look at our walking, talking mock exam on Unit 3. I cannot stress enough, this is not everything you need to know. This is just some of the key themes and ideas from Unit 3 in the style of question that they will be presented to you in the examination. Very, very best of luck for the exam. I hope you do as well as you possibly can. I'm sure that you deserve it. Remember, keep calm, enjoy the whole experience, and very, very best wishes. Good luck.